The shocking truth behind Nehemiah, why this man refused to come down at 3 a.m. in the dead of night, when the world was draped in a shroud of darkness. Nehemiah stood at the edge of a crumbling rooftop, staring into the abyss below. His breath quickened, every heartbeat echoing the pulse of the city that lay silent beneath him. Rumors flew through town like wildfire. "They say he's seeing things," whispered one neighbor, her voice trembling with fear. "That he thinks he's on a divine mission." But what if it was more than that? What if his eyes had opened to truths none of us could handle? The moon hung full and heavy above him, casting a ghostly glow on his face, revealing the wild intensity of his gaze, the kind of gaze that made you wonder if he was truly all there. The curious part? Nehemiah never came down. At 3 a.m., when shadows danced and the chill wrapped around like a vice, he remained. It wasn't just a refusal to descend into mundane life, it was something bigger. Every car that passed by slowed, headlights illuminating his figure, illuminating the whispers escaping the lips of those who gathered below. "What is he waiting for?" one bystander shouted, their voice breaking through the still night air. "Is he crazy?" The night tasted of apprehension, thick and tangible, and just when the electric tension reached its peak, a low rumble echoed through the street's thunder? No, it was just the echo of something sinister rising. It felt as if the sky itself held its breath, waiting for Nehemiah to act, to plunge into some reckless descent or to ascend into the unknown. A slight breeze whispered past, chilling their spines and sending waves of goosebumps up their arms. The air pulsed with uncertainty. What secret was he guarding up there? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the crowd murmured and speculated, Nehemiah's hand trembled. Was it fear or resolve? Then, just when the night felt most precarious, a piercing light shot across the skyline, illuminating Nehemiah in an ethereal glow. A collective gasp erupted from the observers below. "Is that a sign?" someone whispered, their eyes wide with disbelief. Nehemiah looked up, a flicker of understanding passing through his eyes. What lay beyond that blinding light? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain, he was not alone in this journey, and something monumental was about to unfold. The crowd collectively held its breath as the blinding light cascaded over Nehemiah, turning him into a silhouette against the shimmering backdrop of the city skyline. For a moment, time stood still. Even the usual night sounds seemed to dull, and all that remained was the sound of Nehemiah's quickening breaths. His heart raced in tandem with the thunderous roar echoing like a drumbeat in the deep of the night. Was it fear or something far more primal? Then, the light shifted, revealing the source. A mysterious figure stood at the edge of the adjacent rooftop, cloaked in shadow yet radiating an intensity that made his presence undeniably felt. The figure raised an arm, and in that instant, fully illuminated Nehemiah, dragging him out from the gloom of uncertainty. Gasps rippled through the gathering crowd. "Who is that?" someone shrieked, breaking the spell that hung in the air. Nehemiah's eyes narrowed, searching for any hint of danger or solace in the stranger. The figure stood with an eerily calm demeanor, his face obscured by a hood that seemed to swallow the light whole. The unseen crowd thrummed with anxiety, ringing in a mix of anticipation and dread. Nehemiah felt a pull, a strange, magnetic force drawing him closer, begging him to step off the ledge. But was it a call to purpose or a descent into madness? As if sensing his inner turmoil, the mysterious figure lowered his hood, revealing chiseled features and eyes that sparkled like fragments of shattered glass. There was something almost familiar in that gaze, something that piqued Nehemiah's curiosity and fear at the same time. "Nehemiah," the figure called out, voice smooth yet chilling, "it's time. The truth awaits you." The crowd murmured, glancing around as if expecting a rescue team to burst through and snatch Nehemiah away from this dangerous brink. Instead, their eyes were glued to the scene, their breaths caught in their throats, waiting for the moment that would either break or bless their beloved community. "Time for what?" Nehemiah shouted back, a flurry of mixed emotions racing through him. Would coming down mean letting go of everything he believed, or would it lead to enlightenment? The figure smiled sadly, shaking his head, as if Nehemiah had just demonstrated the depths of his ignorance. You know the answer. You felt it all along. Suddenly, a sharp crack split the air. Lightning slashed across the sky, illuminating both men in a stark white glow, but it was what followed that drove the crowd into chaos. A low, ominous growl filled the atmosphere from somewhere deep within the shadows of the city. It reverberated, crawling beneath their skin, whispering fears that had long been buried. Murmurs turned to screams as the ground shook beneath them. Nehemiah! A voice cried out from the back of the crowd, "Get down!" But he remained, locked in a battle between fear and the gnawing hunger for knowledge. The figure gestured forward, his eyes compelling Nehemiah to leap into the unknown. Suddenly, with every heartbeat pushing him, with the chaos swirling around him, Nehemiah's resolve shattered. He took a step forward, breathless, on the precipice of choice. Was it too late to turn back? Behind him, people spilled into the street, their cries mingling with the rising fog of dread. All at once, he was ready to take that leap, unaware that the truth he sought might be darker than any shadow cast by the storm brewing in the sky. Just before he took that fateful step, a chilling realization struck him as the city murmured beneath him. The whispers grew louder. What if he wasn't the only one chosen? What if he was just the beginning? And in that moment of uncertainty, he teetered on the edge, poised between freedom and revelation, stretching the thin thread of fate. But was the truth he sought worth the cost of everything? The light flickered, shadows danced, and Nehemiah stood on the pivot of destiny. What awaited him in the depths? Only one choice remained. The world below spun in a whirlwind of chaos, the once familiar cityscape now a disorienting blend of jarring shrieks and pulsing fear. Nehemiah's mind was racing faster than his heart. He could feel it all, the collective terror binding everyone to their spots, the urge to run contrasting with his strange thirst for understanding. Nehemiah! Someone shouted again from below, sounding frantic and desperate, but the connection felt thin, severed by the chaos that surrounded him. His body trembled as he hung there, suspended between fear and destiny. The mysterious figure before him remained stoic, his face a mask of calm, evoking a mix of intrigue and warning within Nehemiah. Come! The shadowed figure urged, an edge of authority creeping into his voice. Do you hear the truth calling? It's time to accept who you are meant to be. A whimper echoed from the crowd, a lament that cut sharply into Nehemiah's resolve. What did that even mean? Everything in him screamed to run, to hide, to bury himself deep within the comforting arms of normalcy. But just then, another shudder rolled through the ground, a deeper growl this time, as if the earth itself was alive and restless. Make your choice, Nehemiah. The figure's words rang clear, piercing through the noise like a beacon in a storm. Something in his eyes and urgency, or perhaps despair, tugged at Nehemiah's gut. Something dark loomed within the figure's shadow, maybe it was a reflection of the storm brewing inside him. What do you mean? Nehemiah replied, fighting back the urge to shout in panic. What am I meant to be? The figure hesitated for just a heartbeat, and in that moment, the world around them fell silent. An unearthly calm enveloped the scene, punctuated only by the distant rumble of thunder. The crowd, as if spellbound, held its breath. Nehemiah swayed, teetering on the edge, grappling with the weight of the moment. You felt it, the figure said slowly, his voice dropping to a whisper, as though revealing a grand secret. That surge inside you, the whispers of power. You can either embrace it, or let it consume you. His words echoed through Nehemiah's mind like a persistent itch. Power. The thrill of control. The dark allure of knowing. But with that came the crushing weight of consequence. What if he was never meant for this? The fear clawed at his insides. Suddenly, an explosion erupted somewhere in the distance, the sharp crack of glass shattering and metal groaning as the remaining foothold of comfort ripped away. Even the ground beneath them echoed in approval. People shrieked, panic surged anew. Nehemiah's heart raced as he felt the gaze of hundreds resting on him. Trust me, Nehemiah. The figure urged, his eyes growing fierce. They need you, whether you realize it or not. Need me? Nehemiah spat back, grappling with the churning turmoil within. Why would they need someone like me? His voice dripped with doubt, anger shivering through. Because you are not just someone, the figure asserted, stepping forward, power radiating from him like heat. You are their only hope. Don't you see? You're destined to rise. Rise? Nehemiah hissed, the word tasted foreign on his tongue. In that heartbeat of revelation, everything shifted again, a new shadow coiling in the darkness, not from the city, but from within the thrumming mass of humanity below. There were others, hidden among the crowd, each of them receiving the call, battling with their own choices. Time flickered like an old film reel, amplifying every heartbeat, every terrified gasp. As the winds whipped, Nehemiah felt the pull of fate tightening its grip, and he stood teetering on the edge, heart pounding like a war drum. But just when he thought he understood, just when he thought he was ready to leap, a piercing cry shattered the moment. Someone was in danger below. Someone was in need, and it was his choice now. Would he take that leap, embracing the power, or would he choose to save what he could? With the world crashing around him, Nehemiah found himself ready for the truth, and it was a truth that would change everything. He could feel hesitation still lingering in the air, the thin thread of decisions hanging heavy, waiting to be cut. More choices loomed now, more shadows creeping in from every angle. What awaited him if he stepped off that ledge? The answers beckoned, dark and tantalizing. But first, he had to choose. Nehemiah's heart thundered in his chest, drowning out everything else. The deafening roar of the crowd faded into a low buzz as he focused solely on that piercing cry. A desperate plea, a voice calling for help. It sliced through his confusion like a knife, sending shocks of urgency coursing through him. Was it too late to turn back? He glanced at the figure standing before him, whose expression remained unyielding, a mixture of pressure and anticipation hanging thick in the air. Time seemed frozen between them, the decision heavy in the moment's stillness. The figure's presence loomed large, but the real challenge was the weight he felt shifting beneath him, an invisible force that threatened to hurl him into the abyss of unknown possibilities. The sounds of chaos broke the silence. More explosions echoed in the distance, fiery flashes illuminating the dark sky. The ground beneath began to tremble again, a reminder that the reality he had known was crumbling at an alarming speed. It didn't matter anymore that dark tendrils of fear coiled around his fists. One thing was clear, people needed him. Nehemiah. The frantic shout pierced the veil of chaos, pulling his thoughts back to the present. Nehemiah, please. He strained to see below. Faces were twisted in fear, desperate hands reaching out, and he could feel their need pressing against him like a tidal wave. Maybe they did need him. But could he shoulder their expectations, the weight of another's hopes? Would he have the strength? With every heartbeat spinning faster, another thought ignited within him. What had the figure said? Power? Was it his? What if embracing it meant not only responding to that terrified cry but unlocking something within himself, something long buried and forgotten? It felt like staring at a closed door, hesitant to turn the knob. Then came a voice, softer yet powerful. Embrace your truth, it whispered through the tumult, echoing like a distant melody that pulled him closer. Nehemiah staggered, teetering on the ledge, the world spinning below him. He closed his eyes for a breath, envisioning the chaos below. The flames licking the sky, buildings crumbling, and shadows sweeping across the streets. He pictured every face, every longing glance sent skyward, hoping, praying someone would answer. Stop hiding. The figure urged, desperation creeping under his calm facade. This is your moment, Nehemiah. Don't let it pass. That settled it. Whatever this power was, he couldn't let it remain dormant inside him. The very fabric of this moment demanded that he pierce through the fog of doubt and take a stand. Nehemiah inhaled deeply, opening his eyes. This was it. The choice was clear now. He was done with fear. He was done with hesitation. In one sweeping motion, he launched himself into the air, every muscle screaming, every thought colliding. Time decelerated as he soared, and for that breathless moment, he wasn't just falling, he was flying. The crowd below gasped as he descended, bodies moving to create a clearing, a fleeting glimpse of desperation turning to awe. And just like that, the world exploded into vitality as Nehemiah struck the ground, sending a shockwave rippling through the chaos. The power coursing through him ignited electric, bright, momentous. It wasn't just a fight to survive anymore, it was a battle to thrive to wake up to who he really was. But as his newfound strength surged within him, he realized that this was merely the beginning. As shadow stretched long and dark, weaving through what was left of the crowd, it became painfully clear, in accessing this power, he'd opened a door he could not easily close. New enemies lurked in the shadows, waiting and watching. And suddenly, the question loomed larger than life. Who else would rise with him, and at what cost? Nehemiah braced himself, heart racing anew, ready to confront what lay ahead. The path was fraught with danger and choice, and it was only just starting to unfold. What awaited him on the other side, after this leap into destiny? What truths hid behind the shadows, waiting to be exposed? Nehemiah's heart raced, each thump echoing the chaos skirting around him. The crackle of energy in the air buzzed like a live wire, and he could feel the thrill of his power settling into his bones. He scanned the faces in the crowd, their eyes wide with a mixture of awe and hope. Yet, deep inside, fear still gnawed at him. Did they truly believe he could save them? With a deep breath, he steadied himself, absorbing the power that surged within him. It was intoxicating, yet terrifying. Just then, a sudden wave of darkness washed over the crowd, twisting their expressions from wonder to dread. Unearthly shadows crept into the periphery, crawling along the ground like a malicious fog. "Look out!" someone screamed. A figure materialized from the shadows, cloaked in darkness, their intentions cloaked even more so. He advanced toward Nehemiah, a predator closing in on prey. Panic surged, clawing at Nehemiah's chest. But he could feel it then, the energy pulsing through him, humming with potential. "Who are you?" Nehemiah called out, trying to sound confident as the figure stepped closer. The crowd fell silent, breaths caught in throats. They were waiting for him, waiting for a leader. "I am the truth you fear to confront," the figure replied, voice low and raspy, sliding beneath the skin like ice. "I am what lies beneath your weaknesses, your insecurities. The power you feel? It's but a flicker of what I can unleash." Nehemiah found his voice as anger flared up inside him. "I'm not afraid of you. You're just a shadow, a distraction from the light." "Light?" The figure leaned closer, shadow stretching like dark tentacles towards Nehemiah. "Is that what you believe? You cling to your delusions, thinking you wield power. But I am the darkness that feeds on hope, the void that swallows light whole." As those words wrapped around him, Nehemiah felt a tremor run through the crowd. Fear was palpable, a thick mist that clouded their resolve. He could feel their doubts latch onto him, tugging at the very essence of the strength he had just discovered. He fought to hold on to his newfound power, every muscle tense with the struggle against the oncoming despair. "Rise up with me!" Nehemiah shouted, searching for connection, looking for warmth among the fear. "Together, we can push back against the darkness." But just as he tried to ignite that spark of hope, the figure laughed, a sound that sliced through the air like glass. "Together? They won't rise beside you, Nehemiah. They'll abandon you when the true test of power comes. They see you as a beacon now, but soon, they will only see your failures." Nehemiah staggered back, a chill shooting down his spine. What if the figure was right? What if it was easier for them to turn away than to support him? He clenched his fists, the power inside him swirling wildly. But in that moment of doubt, a deep conviction surged as if an unseen force pushed him forward. "No! I won't let your words poison me." He lifted his chin defiantly. "I will stand against you. I will fight for them." Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and the swirling shadows intensified, spiraling toward him. Nehemiah braced himself, every instinct screaming to prepare for the encounter. What came next would decide everything. Would the shadows overwhelm him, or would he rise above, proving the figure's taunts false? As that clash of light and shadow approached, Nehemiah breathed and steadied his stance. Would he fall, or would he find a way to transcend the darkness? And then, the first blow struck. The impact jolted through Nehemiah like a lightning strike. The air crackled, and his vision blurred momentarily. He stumbled, trying to regain his footing, but the darkness swirled around him, suffocating in its oppressive weight. He could taste the bitterness of despair on his tongue, the echoes of the figure's words ringing in his ears. Is this all you have? Nehemiah yelled, defiance boiling over. I am not what you say I am. With that, he thrust his hands forward, drawing on the flickers of power still coursing through him. He brought forth a beam of light, radiant and fierce, slicing through the encroaching shadows. The screech that followed was deafening, as if the darkness itself recoiled from the purity of his light. In that moment, hope flared in the crowd. He could see their faces brighten, their fear momentarily pushed back. But Nehemiah knew it wouldn't last. This was merely the beginning of the battle. I will show you. He shouted, his voice echoing off the walls of shadow. I will show you all that hope burns brighter than fear. Yet, as he stood there, face firm and determined, doubt whispered again, creeping in like the shadows. What if he couldn't hold them off? What if he wasn't powerful enough? The figure grimaced, summoning forth tendrils of darkness that spiraled around him, reaching out like serpents toward Nehemiah. You cling to your hope, it taunted, voice oozing disdain. But hope is a fragile flame. A mere gust will snuff it out. You do not understand your true enemy. Then tell me. Nehemiah shot back, desperation creeping into his tone. What is my true enemy? The enemy is within, the figure replied, voice dripping with malice. Your own fears, your own insecurities. They will be your downfall. Suddenly, another blast of darkness struck him, sending Nehemiah sprawling to the ground. He grunted, the breath knocked from his lungs. The crowd gasped, fear rippling through them again. He could sense their wavering support slipping away, like sand through his fingers. Nehemiah! Someone shouted from the crowd, their voice cutting through the thick fog of despair. He struggled to stand, chest heaving. The voice belonged to Miriam, a woman who had always believed in him. Don't give up. That spark ignited a new fire inside him. I won. Nehemiah shouted back, pushing himself to his feet. He could feel her belief suffusing him with strength, gathering every ounce of determination he had left. He focused on the light. It swirled around his fists, growing brighter as he raised them high. The figure recoiled, shadows writhing violently against the brilliance. Nehemiah channeled all he had learned and looked deep within himself. Let the light shine! He cried, unleashing the full force of his power. A golden wave erupted from him, a spectacular outburst that pushed back the darkness surrounding him, creating a halo of radiance, but something shifted in the crowd. Whispers floated about uncertainty. Was it enough? Would they stand by him or retreat into their fears? Just as the shadows began to scatter, a chilling laugh echoed, creeping in like a winter's chill. You think you can defeat me? This is only the beginning. Darkness will rise, and it will consume everything you hold dear. Nehemiah felt a shudder ripple through him. The figure wasn't just a shadow, it was a mirror reflecting all the doubts, all the fears he had buried deep. Stay with me. I am the light. He roared as darkness surged forward again, hungry and relentless. This was not just a test of strength, it was a trial of faith in himself and those around him. As the battle intensified, questions flooded his mind. Would he rise as the beacon of hope they needed, or would the shadows pull him into their abyss? With everything he had focused around him, he could feel the impending clash that would determine everything. Then, behind him, something trembled. A figure loomed in the crowd, face obscured, but the energy radiated like a thunderstorm. Who was it? And just like that, a new tension began weaving into the fabric of the fight. Nehemiah's heart thundered against his ribs as he turned to face the obscured figure. Every muscle in his body tightened, the hairs on his neck standing on end. The air was thick with charged anticipation, as though the world itself was holding its breath. Miriam's voice rang out again, laced with confusion. Who are you? The crowd echoed her sentiment, their eyes darting nervously, searching for answers in the shadows. The figure stepped forward, emerging into the light of Nehemiah's brilliance. A gasp rippled through the masses. It was Asha, a former ally believed long lost in the fray of darkness that had consumed them. But there was something different about her, something strange glimmering in her gaze. Asha? Nehemiah's voice cracked with both joy and disbelief. Is it really you? I've returned, she began, but her words hung heavy in the air, twisting the exhilaration into an uneasy tension.
But I'm not the same. None of us are.
The darkness, it changed everything.
Suddenly, another surge of shadow curled around Asha, and Nehemiah's instincts kicked in. No! Get away from her!
He shouted, extending his light toward her, desperate to protect her. The golden wave vibrated with intensity, clashing against the tendrils of darkness in a spectacular burst of power.
But that's just it, Nehemiah!
Asha cried, voice strained. I'm not in danger, I in danger. The shadows have infused me with something.
I can control them now. The confession sent shockwaves through Nehemiah's heart. Control them? You're telling me they VE turned you? Not just me. Look around. You're not the only one who can wield light. There are others who VE risen up, others willing to fight.
At her words, Nehemiah cast his gaze back to the crowd. The expressions of those he'd once thought to be helpless were shifting. A few held glimmers of light in their own hands, flickering like stars in the storm's deep void.
He felt hope sparking again, but confusion gnawed at him. Was Asha friend or foe? The figure in darkness laughed again, deep and echoing, drowning out Nehemiah's thoughts. See how the shadows whisper to your friend? They seduce you always, turning allies into weapons. Trust them and you'll be lost as well. No! Nehemiah roared.
I choose my allies wisely, and I believe in their strength. As Asha stepped further into the light, the darkness cringed, recoiling almost instinctively.
But can you trust me?
She posed, her voice softer, almost pained.
They VE promised me power, and in this world, power means survival. I could be a powerful ally or your greatest enemy.
Nehemiah felt the weight of her words.
Was survival worth losing oneself?
The shadows behind Asha whispered temptations, and he could sense the struggle beneath her calm surface. The clash surged, light against dark. Nehemiah could feel his own power waning, his grip on hope loosening.
What do I do? He thought, heart racing. What if she's right? Then, from behind him, a voice boomed, choose wisely, Nehemiah. The future hangs in the balance. It shocked him into a moment of silence. Who was it? The crowd trembled, voices rising and falling as the tension mounted.
Hope and doubt danced together now, each fighting for domination in their collective hearts.
Decide.
The figure loomed closer, shadows swirling ominously.
Light or dark, friend or foe? What will you choose? Nehemiah's pulse quickened. Would he embrace the darkness, or would he hold on to the light?
And what role would Asha truly play in this chaos? He reached for the truth within, feeling it spark against the encroaching shadows.
But deep down, he knew that the answer would not come without an ultimate sacrifice. And as the ground shook beneath him, he knew the moment to decide was upon him. Would he plunge into the abyss, or would he forge a path to salvation? In the brewing storm, light and darkness collided. With an unsteady breath, he stepped forward, ready to confront the choice that could change everything. Would he dare to confront the shadows not just in front of him, but the ones lurking in his own heart? Nehemiah's mind raced as he faced the swirling chaos before him. The voice from behind still echoed in his ears, a grim reminder of the weight of his decision. Asha's gaze bore into him, searching for understanding, or perhaps approval. But behind her eyes lay something darker, a tumult of struggle, raw and painful. The crowd pulsed with uncertainty. Murmurs spread, a ripple of anxiety tinged with a glimmer of hope. Could they truly wield light like Asha? Could hope emerge from despair? The fear was palpable, thick as smoke, wrapping around them like a shroud. I don't know what to believe, Nehemiah admitted, his voice steadier than he felt. He gestured toward Asha. You say you control the darkness, but what if it controls you? Asha's expression faltered for just a moment. For a heartbeat, it seemed as if she stumbled upon a truth she had yet to confront. The shadows danced around her, whispering secrets meant only for her ears. You think power is just a tool? It's a living entity, Nehemiah. She replied, conviction sparking in her tone, as she raised her hands, effortlessly manipulating the darkness that encircled her. I've learned to nurture it, to harness it. I've become something more because of it. A low chuckle from the dark figure sent shivers down Nehemiah's spine. Ah, the seductive promise of power. How it blinds the faithful, the voice dripped with mockery. You show them this, Asha? When you're already walking a thin line between savior and monster? Nehemiah felt a tight knot in his chest. Could Asha truly navigate this treacherous path? His pulse raced, doubt clawing at his thoughts. Turn to the light, Asha. It saved us before. Did it save us? She whispered, her voice barely a breath as she edged closer. Or did it keep us shackled to ideals that no longer hold water in this world? Nehemiah, these shadows can save lives, they can protect. His heart sank. The shadows behind her surged, as if drawn by her words, their languid tendrils glided toward the crowd. Murmurs escalated into a crescendo of mixed emotions. Fear and excitement danced hand in hand among the onlookers. What are you saying? Nehemiah pressed, stepping closer. He could feel Asha's breath, warm yet tinged with something ethereal. Are you telling them to embrace that which threatens to consume you? I'm telling them to embrace what they can become. Asha challenged, exhaling power that crackled in the air like static. You've held the light, Nehemiah. But how has it prepared you for what is coming? Can you truly fight the darkness if you do not understand it? A chilling laugh from the shadows echoed close. You see? Even now, vulnerability inches into your precious little light. Asha's teaching sounds so appealing, but perhaps you should listen closely, Nehemiah. The shadows stir, and they require champions who will rise? Nehemiah's focus sharpened. He could feel the weight of his decision pressing down on him, as the crowd peered at him with hungry eyes. Their future rested on his shoulders, and he sensed their desire for something more. Yet uncertainty wrapped around him tighter, but the ground trembled beneath their feet, a herald of an approaching storm, a harbinger of chaos. Nehemiah's instincts screamed at him, his own heart wavered between light and shadow. Time was waning. Choose, or succumb. The figure thundered, voice booming, rumbling like war drums. What will you sacrifice for the truth, Nehemiah? Asha's soft voice cut through the din, leaving him breathless. Will you stand with me, or will you let the light consume you? Desperation ignited his soul. A decision loomed. As he teetered on the precipice of choice, a single question loomed larger than the rest: was he brave enough to unveil the darkness that lay within himself, even if it meant risking everything? In that moment, the air crackled with the electric tension of impending revelation. The path stretched before him, and he could not turn back. What would he ultimately embrace, and at what cost? The ground shook with ferocity, sending dust and debris spiraling into the air like a blinding haze. Nehemiah felt the vibrations travel through his feet and into his core, his body tightening in fear as the shadows began to writhe around Asha. They were alive, hungry, eager. Nehemiah. Asha called out, her voice trembling with urgency. You must see. This is a moment of reckoning. We can't keep running, pretending that light can banish darkness alone. Then what? He shot back, panic lacing his words. You want us to surrender to it? To become like that? He gestured to the looming dark figure, now swelling with a grotesque, almost giddy anticipation as the crowd backed away, their faces pale and fearful. Oh, but you misunderstand. The mockery dripped from the entity's voice, weaving through the air like smoke. I offer a chance to rise, to become powerful in ways you can't imagine. To command the shadows, not succumb to them. Nehemiah felt the weight of those words, lingering heavy in the air. His pulse quickened as he glanced around, gauging the crowd's reaction. Desperation glimmered in some eyes, mingled with excitement. Others recoiled in horror, teeth gritted as disbelief painted their faces. What if you're wrong? Nehemiah whispered to Asha, fear gnawing at him. What if you lose yourself? Isn't that the risk we take for everything? For love, for hope, for the chance to change our world? Asha's resolve shone through her uncertainty, a raw courage that clawed at him. Would you rather stay locked in a fading light? Or step into a dark that might illuminate your true potential? Nehemiah clenched his fists, sweat trickling down his brow.
The shadows pulsed, a rhythmic heartbeat that resonated with his own, as if calling to him.
Was he being foolish for even considering her words? Would he truly find strength, or was it a descent into madness?
"You're frightened," Asha said gently, her voice softening as she reached out.
Good. It means you're human. But what about the others? Don't you feel their yearning? Their hunger for power, for control?
They're ready to fight, really fight for their futures. The dark figure's laughter floated above them, dark and teasing.
She's right, Nehemiah. We've all sat in the shadows, waiting for someone to light the spark. They've seen you wield the light. Now they want to see what happens when the darkness runs wild. Fear burrowed into Nehemiah's chest as he scanned those eager, yearning faces. Did they truly want this? Was this their salvation or their damnation?
He could feel their need, raw and desperate, hungry for a leader to guide them.
Listen to them.
Asha pressed on, her voice rising above the cacophony of doubt that clanged in his ears.
What leads men to destruction can also lead them to creation.
You must meet darkness with courage.
Stand with me.
We'll reshape this world. I don't know, Nehemiah breathed, the words catching in his throat. The shadows curled around him, serpentine and seductive, weaving a web of uncertainty that felt nearly suffocating. The voice of the dark figure echoed through his mind, powerful and thrilling.
Choose, Nehemiah. Will you lead them into the light, or will you allow them to embrace the shadows? The choice is yours. But inaction will consume you.
For a moment, he stood frozen, the air thick with tension, pleading eyes all around him.
Would he truly forge a new path, or would he allow fear to guide him back into fading light?
Then a tremor of resolve sparked within him. What if my darkness? He stared into Asha's vibrant gaze, a flicker of hope awakening.
What if my darkness can illuminate?
The ground shook violently, a flash of blinding light split the darkness, and with it, the first wave of shadows surged. In that agitated moment, clarity lit Nehemiah's mind like a flash of lightning illuminating a stormy sky. A terrifying awakening of something deep inside him flooded his veins, a power stirring that he couldn't ignore. But before he could grasp what was happening, the ground beneath him shattered, drawing screams from the crowd as chaos erupted.
What was real? What was shadow? In the fray of confusion, Nehemiah knew one thing: the answer to his fate was unfurling before him. Could he truly wield the shadows without being consumed?
And would he rise, or would he fall? As whispers of fear and desire swirled around him, all he could do was brace himself. The choice wasn't over yet, it had just begun. Nehemiah stood at the edge of the chaos, his heart racing as the cacophony of voices swirled around him. The shadows writhed at his feet, taunting him with their dark promises, while the flickering light of hope beckoned from within. Bodies pressed against each other, eyes wide with fear, longing, and a glimmer of faith. This was it. The defining moment of his life. Asha stood in front of him, shadows swirling coiled around her like a lover's embrace.
You still have the chance, Nehemiah. Her voice was a thunderclap amidst the dimming light, steady yet trembling. Together, we can mold this chaos into something greater. The dark figure loomed just behind her, laughter echoing like a broken record. Do you really think you can control what lies in the darkness? It feeds on the weak, and your humanity makes you vulnerable. Nehemiah gritted his teeth, the tension rising to a breaking point.
I won't let fear control me.
His voice rang out like a clarion call.
The fire inside him swelled, igniting every nerve ending, dissipating the doubts that threatened to cloud his resolve. Taking a deep breath, he locked eyes with Asha. You said we can shape what's coming, he exhorted, a sense of unity sparking between them. Let us turn this darkness into our strength together.
As if responding to his declaration, the shadows pulsed violently, swirling around him like a storm.
The figure laughed, a sound deeply rooted in menace.
They will not follow.
But Nehemiah's gaze wandered over the crowd, and he saw the flickers of light shining back at him. Hope ignited in the depths of their eyes.
You're wrong.
He shouted into the darkness, his voice steadying as he felt the whispers in the crowd rise in affirmation.
They see a leader. They want to fight.
The energy crackled in the air, a potent mix of fear and anticipation. The crowd began to push forward, lights blossoming from hands, faces stepping into the warmth of Nehemiah's resolve. They wouldn't turn away, they were ready to embrace their own powers, summoned by the intoxicating echo of connection.
"Stand with me," Nehemiah called, extending his hands, feeling warmth surge from the tightly held bonds shared amongst them. "We can thrive together. Light and shadow can coexist, we will not let fear define us." The dark figure's laughter faltered slightly, fear etched into its features. "You think you can rise above me?" "Yes," Nehemiah's voice thundered. "If we embrace our entirety, our light and darkness will be unstoppable. Shadows may swirl around us, but they no longer hold power over us." With a fierce cry, Nehemiah thrust his hands up high, channeling every ounce of energy, determination, and faith he could muster. Waves of light burst forth, illuminating the entire area, intertwining with the shadows, dancing and blending into a tapestry of brilliance. The entire crowd surged forward, a phenomenon of organic power, voices rising in a cacophony of unity. In that moment, Nehemiah felt something profound. The shadows and the lights lay beneath his fingertips, coiling together as he commanded them, reshaping them into a shield of protection, an ethereal barrier against chaos. The darkness fought back, energy clashing, the battle resonating through the ground as building toppled and the air crackled with tension. But still, Nehemiah held firm. Then came a collective shout from the crowd, urging, willing, a love that thrummed with desperate fervor. "Now!" Miriam shouted, leading the charge as she broke through with the depth of her own light. And just like that, something shifted. The dark figure's laughter turned to a rasping snarl, shadows surging forward only to be repelled by unyielding light. A vulnerable fear unfurled within, turning into shock and retreat. "No! This isn't possible." Nehemiah seized that moment of reckoning. "You were wrong about us," he screamed, shoving the dark figure back into the depths from whence it came. "We rise as one." With a decisive push, he launched the combined force of their unity forward, a blazing shockwave that slammed into the darkness. It rippled, unraveling strands of shadow until they scattered like autumn leaves caught in a storm, unable to withstand the intensity of their light, and for the first time in what felt like eternity, silence fell. As the whirlwind of chaos settled and the darkness dissipated, Nehemiah surveyed the trembling crowd, eyes shimmering with newfound clarity. They were alive together. Each face reflected resilience, hope tangible in the air. They had overcome. Asha stepped closer, exhaustion mingled with awe in her gaze. "You did it," she whispered, voice barely escaping her lips, deep emotion coursing through her. "You led them." With weary relief flooding through his bones, Nehemiah let out a breath he didn't know he held. "No." His eyes swept over the crowd, each face glowing with strength. "We did this together. This is only the beginning." The world around them flickered, reshaping, each moment echoing with a sense of possibility. Together, they had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, illuminated by the light they embraced within. As the city healed and the stars twinkled above, Nehemiah knew this journey wasn't over. Even as the shadows retreated, new challenges would arise. But with allies forged in the fires of conflict, he felt the weight of responsibility push him forward. He raised his hands to the skies, confidence surging. "Together, we will write this story anew. Let us ensure that this civilization, filled with light, never forgets what they can become together." And just like that, the seeds of a brighter world began to take root. Now, if you want to stay part of this incredible journey, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't wait even one more second to share this moment with those who need to see it. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. Let us connect, 'cause only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these next thrilling stories.